Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to the English Right Now podcast. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about some rather unusual British traditions that you may or may not have heard of. And of course, along the way, we'll be teaching you at least 10 pieces of vocabulary. We say at least because, these lessons, it's a real conversation. Sometimes words come up. And joining me, of course, is my dear friend Rob. Hello.
Hello, Roy. Hello out there. How are we all doing today?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much.
Good, good. So we're going to be talking about some unusual things that you may discover in the UK. These kind of traditions, and we're going to be talking about that word. That's the first piece of our vocabulary. So a tradition is a belief, a custom, or a way of doing something that's existed for a really, really long time among a particular group of people. And in this sense, we're looking at these kind of customs that we've been doing for a long time, or sometimes they're new traditions. That's something we can mention that we're looking at. And some of them I'd never heard of, and you brought them to my attention.
Mm, yes, we have quite a lot in Britain. And interestingly, I don't know if this is a typical British tradition or something that happens in other parts of the world, but I have a feeling this is just a British thing. Some of these weird and wonderful traditions we're going to talk about.
Yeah. So some of them. So some of these traditions. Let's get the first one out of the way that I wanted to talk about, because one of them I know and I love, and that is cheese rolling. Can you tell me a bit more about what? Can you tell the listeners or the viewers a little bit more about cheese rolling?
Yeah, well, it's pretty simple, really. It's about rolling cheese down a hill. This happens This happens in Gloucestershire every year. What happens is they get a huge ball of cheese, or what shape is it? Kind of round.
So a wheel of
piece
cheese, isn't it?
A wheel of cheese. Thank you. That's a good description. It's big, and they roll it down a hill, and people have to go and catch it. And I guess the person who manages to catch it first wins all that cheese.
I mean, this is, I heard about this first when I was teaching English, and students asked me about some unusual traditions. And of course, being from another county, I'd never heard of this. But suddenly they were like, what unique traditions do you have in the UK? And that's one of our words as well, unique. Unique means it can mean the only one of its kind, but it could also refer to something very special. And sometimes we use it a little bit patronizing, go, oh, Rob, you're really unique. In other words, you're one of a kind. There is nobody quite like you, but we could be quite sarcastic. But it's a really unique tradition. And I discovered this. And yeah, you're basically, people go up a very steep hill. It's a very steep hill. And they stand at the top, and then somebody throws the cheese. And then everybody runs after the cheese and they shout, catch the cheese, get the cheese. And I think it's probably quite near impossible, because the cheese will gain real momentum, real speed going down the hill. But every year, people wear interesting kind of fancy dress costumes. Fancy dress refers to, this is not one of the words on our list, but fancy dress refers to dressing up in specific costumes, often to look like sort of mythical creatures and film characters and things like this. So they'll do that. And quite often, people get hurt running down that hill because they fall. Why would? But it looks good fun. Have you ever tried it?
I haven't actually. No, I've never had a piece of cheese big enough. What I must say is that this cheese has to be hard cheese, a cheese like cheddar or something like that. It'd be no good if it was a camembert or a soft cheese like that.
No. No. I wonder if it's we can find out more about this. I wonder if it's Gloucester cheese.
Ah,
It
yes,
makes sense to be
Gloucester cheese.
that
Yeah,
kind of cheese.
yeah.
But or Gloucester is
What
it
about, I mean, why
Gloucester?
did? Yeah, there is Gloucester cheese, but why did this tradition start? Do you know? Why did somebody just one day go, let's have a competition and roll some cheese down the hill?
Boredom, maybe, I don't know. There must be
Maybe.
some cultural significance, maybe to celebrate the local cheese, but I don't know much about why they do it. I just know they do it, and that's a lot of the kind of traditions that we have now. It's they've just been there for a long time, and things like this. If you were going to do cheese rolling and run after the cheese, what fancy dress costume would you wear?
I would dress up like a mouse running after the cheese. Get it?
I like that. I like that. Mine would have no relevance whatsoever, but I dress up like Darth Vader because I think that would be just good fun.
That
And
would be a good
probably I'd need the
Instagram
breathing
moment.
mask. Yeah,
Mm.
just try and use the
Good for
force.
Instagram.
Yeah, why not? So that's our first one. What ones did you enjoy before we get onto the ones that kind of really surprised me? What traditions would you like to talk
Well,
about?
here's another quirky one. By quirky, I mean it's very odd,
Yeah,
strange,
that's one of our
but it,
vocabulary, isn't it?
yeah,
Quirky. It means
quirky.
weird, unusual, a little bit strange. But it can also be used quite affectionately. Oh, he's a bit quirky, meaning he's a bit unusual but cool. Sort of that
Yes,
thing as well. But
exactly.
yeah, go on. Tell
So
me your.
this one I was going to tell you about. I'm afraid your wife won't qualify because she's too light. Okay, this this is the wife carrying competition, which happens every year in Surrey. And again, very simple. It's about men carrying their wives. They have to carry over, I think the course is 380 meters over a
Okay.
hilly course. And of course, the winner is the person who gets there first. Now, it's a bit of fun now, but this kind of originates from Viking times when the Vikings would come over to the UK and they would steal women and carry them off over their shoulders. So it wasn't so nice in those days. There was no
Yeah.
competition involved. But
Well,
this was
there's a word that we
revived.
use. There's a
Yeah.
word that we use as well. Here's a natural piece of vocabulary that's come up, but there's a word that people use when they steal a person. It's kidnap. So they
Kidnap.
kidnap people and they took them away. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Thank good. I mean, so this tradition dates back to this idea of basically kidnapping women and taking them somewhere. And this tradition was sort of resurrected or
Yes.
revived in
Revived. Yeah.
2008. But thank goodness it's no longer about women are now uh, taking part willingly. Thank goodness. Willingly
That's
means that they want to do it.
But I mentioned your wife, Roy, because your wife has to be over. I've got the details here. Should you be interested, they have to weigh at least 50 kilograms to be carried.
Well, apparently as well. So I'm not going to talk about my wife's weight
No.
because number one, she'd kill me. But there you go. But apparently, if she's under 50 kilos, if your wife is under 50 kilos, you can make up the weight with cans of baked beans. I mean, who came up with this idea? Like, so they're like, what can we do to balance the weight of the wife up to 50 kilos? Put some baked beans on her. I think that's
Mm.
cans of baked beans. I think that's a really unusual tradition. But yeah, and it is weird. And apparently, the people who are taking part, you can call people who are taking part. You can say that they are participants. They are taking part in the competition.
Mm.
A participant. That's one of our keywords today.
Yes.
And so they taking part, but they have to wear a helmet as well. And I saw some unusual stuff that you sent me. I'd never heard of this tradition, by the way. This is down in Surrey, so it's
Mm.
not far from where we both live. It's kind of in the it's about equidistant, the same distance.
Yes.
But I'd
Yes.
never
South of
heard of
London.
this one. Yeah,
Mm.
southwest of London, isn't it? Sort of,
Yeah. 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 I
or
mean, I
south of
have
London.
heard of it.
Sorry.
I've never actually witnessed it myself. I've never seen it happening, but I am aware of it taking place. And this takes place, like most of these traditions, every year, annually. There's another word
Yeah.
for you, annual. Yeah.
Yeah, annually or annual every year. So yeah, it's an annual tradition. And the prizes are £100 and a barrel of ale
Wow.
for the winners. And then you can go on to participate or take part in the World Championships in Finland.
Mm. And
So
what's
it's
the
not just
price
a
there?
an
What's the price in Finland?
you did send me this, and I mean, like the prize
I
is
can
a
see it.
pound of sausage
Oh yeah.
for the heaviest for the carrier of the heaviest wife, and mini kegs of beer, I guess, for the runners up. And losers win a ceremonial tin of dog food and a pot noodle. I love this tradition. I think it's brilliant. I'd never heard of it before, but who came up with the ideas of cans of beans, pot noodles, dog food,
Mm.
pounds of sausages? Who came up with this? Whoever
I
they were,
don't know.
they were definitely a genius.
Yes. I don't think the Vikings had those kind of prizes when they were doing it,
No,
but
no. Here's your pound of sausages. Well done. You've got the
yeah.
you've got the heaviest wife apparently in the Finnish one. I don't I don't think I don't think that's appropriate. But the English one's a bit more about carrying your wife a distance, I guess.
Yes. Yes. It's all for
Yeah.
fun. It's all for fun. What about your next tradition, Roy? Do you have another one there?
So my next one would be the World Conquer championships, World Conker Championships. And basically, a conker is another one of our key pieces of vocabulary that we're going to talk about. And a conker is the shiny, sort of smooth brown nut of a horse chestnut tree. So it's basically a round, hard nut of a tree. And you attach it to a piece of string, or you thread a piece of string through it, and then you try to hit the other person's conker until one of them breaks. So you take it in turns. You kind of hit the conker. I love the fact that there is a world championship held in Northamptonshire. Not the first place I would have imagined, but did you
Yeah.
know in England the first place with ever to have a recorded conkers sort of battle was on the Isle of Wight. This takes
Yeah.
place in October, so we've still got time this year to go if you want to, you know, go and take part or go and watch
Yeah.
the thing. We could be spectators, which is another one of our key kind of pieces of
Yeah.
vocabulary.
That's when you
And
watch, not take
yeah,
part. Yeah.
spectator watches
Spectator
things.
looks on. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, for example, I wouldn't necessarily say spectators are usually for kind of specific sports. You could say that people in a football stadium are spectators, but it would be more likely to call them fans, football fans. And likewise, you don't get spectators at the theatre, you get audience because that implies they have to listen as well. Audience. So spectators are more for sports like athletics and things like this. And apparently, conkers.
And conkers.
So yeah,
Yeah.
do you
So
want to go this year maybe?
why not? Let's give it a go. Let's go and watch. But I interestingly, so first of all, the conkers, they grow in those green prickly shells. So you don't actually
Yeah, they
see the
do.
conker on
Yeah.
a tree. They grow in a green prickly shell. You open the shell, and inside is this conker. And I guess the competition happens in October because they grow in the autumn. That's when they start falling off the trees. And the other thing I was going to mention, I mean, this is the World Championship we're talking about here, but there are smaller competitions all over the UK. And when I was a child, we used to do conker fighting in the playground. Take a conker into school,
Yes.
put some string on it, and try and beat the other children with their conkers. That got banned after a while, I think, because it got a little bit dangerous.
Yeah, it can be. It can be quite intense, doesn't it? 'Cause especially if it hits your knuckles. Your knuckles
Hmm.
are the bits on your the kind of lumpy bits on your hand. And apparently, I was just checking for you. The first recorded game of conkers using horse chestnuts was on the Isle of Wight, where I live, in 1848.
Okay.
So there you go.
Amazing.
So it's been around for a while, but yeah, I do enjoy it. My son recently picked up conkers. Well, last sort of autumn, and he was like, "Dad, can we play conkers?" And I was like, "Oh," because he doesn't have the kind of aiming skills yet, so I could feel that it was going to go through,
Yes.
like I don't know, into my head or something like this. So I was like, "Oh yeah, sure we can." We did, sort of, but yeah, he's maybe this year will be his year.
You need to aim
Right. What's
better.
your next
Yes.
tradition?
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's move up to the very north United Kingdom now, to the Shetland
Mm.
Islands, which are
Oh,
sort of on the way to Norway, really. But anyway, they're British
yeah.
islands, but they were invaded by the Vikings. And there's this tradition called Upheli, or the burning of the
Ooh,
ships. And what happens now every year, again, it's just a big spectacle that people like to watch. Men dressed as Vikings walk round the town, Lerwick, the capital of Shetland, with
yeah.
burning torches, and they end up at a park where there's this massive replica of a Viking ship, and they set fire to the Viking ship. And I guess it's just to celebrate their Viking heritage.
When does this take place?
This takes place in January. So again, in
Okay.
January, in the north of Scotland, it's always dark anyway. So this really it's quite spectacular because it lights up the sky with all these flames and burning torches and stuff like that. Again, I've never been. It's one of my it's on my bucket list actually to go and see this.
Okay.
I'd like to do it in my life one day, but I've seen it on TV, and yeah, it is incredible. These hundreds of men dressed up as Vikings with flaming torches, kind of recreating maybe what it was like, 1,000 years ago or so.
Yeah. I've never seen this. I've heard of it until you mentioned it just now. I was like, oh yeah, okay, yeah. It's like they set fire to a huge wooden ship, and then watch it burn. And I find that Fantastic. I've never been to the Shetlands. Have you been to the Shetland Islands?
I have. They're a beautiful place if you like wilderness and remoteness. I say
I
Lerwick's
do.
the main town, but once you're out of the main town, which is very small anyway, it's just what there's no trees. That's the other weird thing up there. Lots of mountains and sea
Really?
cliffs, but no trees. It's a sparsely populated, bleak place, but it has its own beauty and great for wildlife as well.
I keep joking about it, but we should take the English Right Now podcast on tour.
Do it. Let's do it.
Go sit in the middle of Edinburgh and then the Shetlands and places like this, and just basically just explore the country with
Mm.
the listeners and viewers. I think that'd be great. I'd love that.
Yeah, that's it.
Maybe if
What's
my
your
wife
next
lets me
one,
out the
then, Roy?
house. So
Gets you out of the house.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So by the way, I just found out. Apparently, we're talking about cheese rolling. So it's on. It's in a place called Cooper's Hill, and it's thought to be more than 600 years old. That tradition. So a lot of these traditions are really, really ancient. I'm going to talk about Morris dancing.
Ah, yes. You can't get more quintessentially English, can you, than Morris dancing?
Perfect word.
See what I
Another
did there?
one. Well done. Well crowbarred in there. So quintessential. Quintessentially is the adverb, but quintessential is one of our key pieces of vocabulary. It is slightly formal, but I kind of like this. Quintessential means representing the perfect example of something. And you're saying Morris dancing basically represents the perfect example of a British tradition. Yeah, so Morris dancing I would agree with that. I think it's very, very British. I think it's very sort of unusual when people first encounter it. I think my wife saw it and said, "What are they doing?" So they kind of usually a group of men, but there are women that do it as well. And they kind of have handkerchiefs, which are the things we traditionally would blow our nose on, handkerchiefs, and they kind of flap them around. They often have a stick that they hit each other with. It's kind of dance, isn't it? It's like a sort of a dance that we see, and they wear these elaborate outfits, and often they have bells on their ankles, and they make a big noise, and they hit the sticks together with music, with folk music, and it's a kind of like a dance where, yeah, and there's also somebody sometimes, or they used to have a bladder on a stick as well, I believe, and it's kind of just a dance with people dressed in quite elaborate sort of costumes. Do you enjoy
Yes.
Morris dancing?
It's not really my cup of tea, really. It's not. It's not the sort of thing I would go out of my way to watch. But I say, other than that, it's a very traditional thing to do. Tends to be older men, doesn't it, and old women
Yes.
dressed up doing this. Dancing around in a circle. They go that way, then they hit their sticks. The music is usually somebody playing an accordion.
Yeah,
Very
like a
simple
kind of
music.
a musical instrument, which it's kind of got a kind of it's an interesting thing. It's like you kind of push it together and pull it apart, don't you?
Mm,
The
mm.
accordion. It's an interesting musical instrument.
And the dancing, well, the Morris men tend to come out in the summer, I think, more to do this, and
Yes.
they're particularly seen on May Day, 1st of May, because it's the
Yes.
sign of the beginning of summer, isn't it? And the first sort of technically the first day of summer, or is it
Yeah,
spring?
I think I think summer's now technically seen as June to thing, but yeah, they're out on May Day, and then they're seen kind of summer fates. So
Mm,
fates are kind of these sort of a gathering of people, often with kind of traditional activities like Morris dancing, and they often sell things on kind of stalls that people sell things, and it's kind of a nice thing. And like it's summer fate, it's kind of this like party, but for families, if you like.
yes, yeah.
But that is one of mine. I think is really quintessentially British, as you say. So
Mm.
what's your next one? We'll do a couple more.
Okay. And another weird one, quirky one, is pancake racing, which also takes place up near the Conquer Championships, actually, but not
Yeah,
the same time of the year. This takes place in February when we're traditionally supposed to
yeah,
make pancakes. Pancakes when you're supposed to use up your leftovers, aren't you, before the 40 days of
yes,
Lent leading up to Easter. Although we eat pancakes all the time now, but
yeah.
so this happens in February, and the idea is the women of the town race through the town with a pancake in a frying pan, and they have to toss it. What tossing means flip it over. So they're
Yeah,
pancake tossing, running down the street. And again, the winner is the first person to complete the course.
So
Do you like
yeah, like
pancakes?
you say. So tossing was one of our key pieces of vocabulary, wasn't it? So toss can mean to throw something. Toss it over here. It's quite an informal word, but tossing a pancake basically means flipping it to be the other way around in a pan. So you flip the pancake, turn it over, basically, as you say. I
Mm.
I've never been. I've lived in, but this is in Buckinghamshire, isn't it? Which is just down the road.
Maybe it's
Olney
on the
in
borders,
Buckinghamshire.
yeah.
Yeah,
Olney, and I have been to Olney.
I've
I have friends who live in Olney, so I have been. I know the
okay,
village or the town. It's a lovely old town, yeah, on the borders of Buckinghamshire and Northamptonshire. But I've not
okay.
seen the race.
No, and I'm stumped as to stumped means confused, not sure what to say as to why it's only women. Why can't men have a go? I don't know. But this tradition apparently dates back to around 1445, and participants, people that take part, must have lived in Olney for at least 3 months to compete. So yeah, so if you want to get there, it's held in March. You need to be there from at least sort of end of November. Next one. So a few honourable mentions. We'll do them together. First up is the Malden Mud Race. Now this is an interesting one because Malden is spelled M-A-L. I always thought this was Malden, but it's Malden Mud Race. You heard of this one?
I have. Malden is a little seaside town on the sort of the edge of an estuary. It's a very wide river, and when the tide goes out, yeah, it's just mud everywhere, mud, and hence
Yeah.
they have this competition here because people have to cross the estuary in through thick mud. I mean,
Yeah.
it looks horrible.
Is it? Is this not slightly dangerous? I don't know. In case you sink into the mud, is this? I don't
Well,
know.
my worry would be, Roy, that you get stuck in the mud and then the tide
Ooh.
comes in, and the water goes up and you're stuck. Hopefully, there's some
Uh,
support there, but
Yeah, I was going to say, we're talking about this, and then, I'm not worried about cheese rolling, but I am worried about this. But yeah, and often people wear again fancy dress, so it makes more of the occasion a bit like that. A lot of people wear interesting costumes. What are the kind of honourable mentions? Because there is one we're going to talk about, which brings in our final key piece of vocabulary. But there's a few other things to talk about. Um, which ones would you like to mention, just as honourable mentions?
okay. Well, there's one that takes place in Hastings, a seaside town on the south coast, called Jack in the Green, and
Oh,
this is another festival to celebrate the start of spring. So people dress up in green, particularly sometimes dressed as trees and plants and things to symbolise the coming of spring. So that's an unusual one.
yeah.
Another one I have been to in Rochester, which is a town in Kent, not
Oh,
far
that's
from
not
here,
far. Yeah.
is the Sweeps Festival. And this happens around the 1st of May again, because traditionally chimney sweeps, usually
Yeah.
children or young people, used to go up the
Yeah.
chimney to sweep the chimney and keep them clean. And they only got one day off a year, which was the 1st of May. One day off work a year.
Okay.
So now they celebrate this tradition by dressing up as chimney sweeps, and the town is full of people, yeah, dressed up as kind of Dickensian chimney sweeps, and it's a big party, really.
Okay, so another honorable mention will be the World Pea Shooting Championship, and this is basically where people have to hit a target. They have like a 30 centimeter long, a foot long blowpipe that they have to fire maple peas at a target
Mm.
from around 3.5 meters away. They're not like so. And basically, the top scorer will then progress to the championship.
Okay.
So this is basically shooting peas through a blowpipe. Seen
Mm.
this? Done
But these
this?
these are no, but first of all, these are, you say, maple peas. They're hard peas, aren't
Yeah.
they? Not your
Yeah.
normal peas you get on your plate at dinner time.
Yeah, you
Um,
get them off your fish and chips, and stick them
yeah,
in. No, this is hard peas, so they're gonna hurt, I think, if
yeah,
you probably hit somebody with it.
I think so. Yeah,
Um,
I used to have a pea shooter at school, and yeah, I used to have a pea shooter and
did you?
shoot peas at people. Yes.
God blimey. So yeah, that happens in July, or it's happening in July. And a week later this year, on July the 19th, there is the World Snail Championships,
Mm.
which is sort of they have to sort of race in the fastest time possible, these snails, over a 13-inch course, so just over a foot
Oh,
long, just over 30 centimeters.
well,
And this
not
this
very
this
long.
tradition happens in Kings Lynn in Norfolk,
Mm.
and it's been happening for around 25 years there.
Okay. Again,
Ever
very
been?
strange. I mean, why does somebody go, should we have an annual snail race? Oh, yeah, good
Yes.
idea.
You know what? Maybe the TV was broken that weekend when they were
Mm.
thinking about it, and apparently every year around 200 snails take part. So I don't know. I mean, maybe you breed your snails and you get your snails prepared. Maybe you're training them every day. I don't know, but
Yeah.
this is a weird one. And finally, before we get on to the final one, you know which one we're aiming for is also the World Bog Snorkeling Champions, and a
Ah,
bog is basically a kind of muddy, dirty kind of area of water, usually with peat, and people swim through it, and that happens in Wales.
mm.
But finally, let's talk about our most well one of the most unusual traditions I've ever heard of in England. You know what I'm going to say. What one is it?
This has to be the Gurning Championships, doesn't it? Which is something I think we could take part in.
Yes, yes. The world. It's not just a local gurning championship. It's the world gurning championship. And gurning is our final piece of kind of vocabulary. It's deliberately pull a face into a silly or kind of horrible shape. You're basically distorting your face in a very unusual, weird, or kind of uncomfortable way. It's like a grotesque pose. Um,
Mm.
and people do this, and people distort their faces through
Yes.
a horse collar. Apparently,
Yeah,
this
the
is up
round
in
thing. Yeah,
Cumbria. This is up
of
in
course.
Cumbria, on the western fringe of the Lake District National Park, and
Mm.
apparently, people have been pulling funny faces at this championship since 1267. This is like nearly
Crikey.
800 years old.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, have you ever seen this? Heard of this?
Well, I've seen some fantastic pictures, on the internet of faces being pulled. Do you think up there in Cumbria, where the competition is, have they got bendier, more rubbery faces? Do you think they can do this gurning?
Maybe if they've been training for it, I don't know.
Should we
I
have a
wouldn't say
practice? Should we have a practice?
we can have a quick practice. Like that's a nice face, isn't it?
Moving on.
So yeah, distorting your face for one night. We'll put that as the cover, maybe. It's an unusual tradition. I think Jim Carrey, the actor Jim Carrey, would be very good at this.
That's true. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he'd
And
be
who
very good
judges
because he
it? What,
pulls it.
what how do you decide who's done the best gurn?
Yeah, I assume there's a panel. Maybe if it's a world championship, they've probably got some famous celebrities coming in. Who knows? I think this
Yeah.
is one that we need to explore a bit more because honestly, I know very little about this, and considering it's like 800 years old nearly, I should
Hmm.
probably know more about this. But I love the fact that just people have been pulling faces, funny faces, since 1267. This is brilliant. I need
Incredible.
to I need to go and watch this. And you just apparently watch people pulling funny faces through the horse collar. Any honorable mentions that we've forgotten before we
Well,
tap out
it's
today?
interesting. Most of the traditions that we've talked about are come from a particular town or a particular village, but we have this national. What is it? A festival, a celebration every year. Guy
A
Fawkes
tradition, a
Night.
kind of ritual, isn't it?
Yeah,
Almost, it's ritual.
yeah. Which we celebrate across the UK. Guy Fawkes Night or Bonfire
Yeah.
Night is always the 5th of November. What are we doing that night, Roy?
Remember the 5th of November. Okay, so this one is steeped in kind of history, isn't it?
Mm,
But basically we get a huge bonfire, often let off
yeah.
fireworks, and there is a a model of a human being called the guy, and we throw him on the fire and watch him burn. And everybody
Yes,
screams,
that's
"Burn
right.
the
Yeah.
guy! Burn the
This
guy!" And
this is Guy Fawkes, isn't it? And he's or
yes,
was a Catholic, wasn't he? A Catholic.
yes. And he tried to kill the King of England at the time. I think it was James, and he tried to kill the
It was,
King of
yeah.
England by blowing up Parliament, and it was called the Gunpowder Plot. And every year,
Mm,
people celebrate basically uh, sort of catching him and stopping the plot. Of course,
yeah.
these days it's just a bit of fun. People toast marshmallows on the fire. They kind of watch the fireworks. They watch
Yeah, lots
people
of
throw this kind of
fireworks.
mannequin of a human being onto the fire and barbarically shout, "Burn him! Burn the guy!"
Yeah.
I really enjoy this. I think bonfire night. We call it bonfire night, don't we, as well?
Yeah,
Where
yeah,
there are bonfires, and I,
yeah.
I really enjoy this one. I think this one is a national one, as you say. Um,
Mm,
but there you go. So we've talked about that, and you've learnt 10 pieces of key vocabulary. In fact, even more, because we kind of always find another word we need to explain or two. But on that note, I just wanted to say thank you very much for joining me, and thank you for listening and watching us talk about traditions. Please do let us know anything else you'd like to learn about in the comments. But from me today, I want to say thank you, Rob, and
No,
I'll see you
it's been
next
a
time.
pleasure, Roy. Thank you.
It has for me as well. Have a great one. See you next time.
Cheers. Bye.